Good morning, everyone. I know I said yesterday that I was going to get to a video like this yesterday, but things kind of snowballed and time got away from me. So came in this morning, had a couple of things to do. Figured I got a couple of minutes here before I got a couple other things going on. Take a minute to kind of go over the differences between an oil change and an oil service. Typically, the main difference is an oil change is oil in a filter. When you add the word service into it, it becomes a little more in depth, where there's more than just the oil, the engine oil, and the oil filter being changed. So walk through the steps a little bit. Pull the vehicle in, right through the door, up onto the lift. You walk around, kick your arms under the car, get it up in the air, make sure she's safe a little before you get it too far up in the air. Then you go ahead and you hit the lift button. It makes a bunch of noise, goes up in the air. Well, get her up a little bit, then you can pull off your oil fill cap, go through your routine. If the oil filter's up top, you can get your oil filter released up there. A lot of them are from the bottom. Typically, we've got oil filter caps. Otherwise, if we don't have a cap that fits it, you can use one of these guys. These work great. There are a couple other different ones that we don't typically have in the shop. Just switch you back over here. We don't have a lot of use for them. If it doesn't have a cap that we can use, or it can't be used with that, there's pretty much everything you need either that you would have to get off, we can get off with a cap or the adjustable guy there. Once you got your stuff off the top, you can put it up in the air, you pull your drain plug, get your oil filter out, make sure your oil filter, I think we got a couple old ones in here, some Fram here. Got your oil filter. Got this O-ring up here. Sometimes that O-ring will get stuck on the engine, so you always want to make sure that you got that off. Otherwise, you'll have a giant oil leak. Get everything drained. Get your new filter put on there. There's goes back and forth all the time, and whether or not you should pre-fill the oil filter. Yes, it matters. No, it doesn't matter. In the end, it never hurts to pre-fill it. It's not going to damage anything. It's not going to do anything wrong. So if you pre-fill it, good for you. If you don't, as long as you're using good oil and you're doing timely oil changes, it's not going to make that big of a difference. So like I said, engine oil change. Drain the oil, change the filter, put fresh oil in it. In an oil service, you do that same thing, but you typically add in one of these guys, a fuel additive there to kind of clean the system. We got AMSOIL, which, we sell all their products here. We got a Liqui Moly here for trouble cases. It's just running weird. Seems like it needs maybe a little bit stronger cleaning agent run through it. So we don't like to do the Liqui Moly all that often because it is a little more strong detergent. We'll do that. You'll end up doing a tire rotation, and a lot of times we'll end up doing an engine air filter or cabin filter along with it too. So an oil service tends to be a little more inclusive with, hey, your car's coming in, we're rotating the tires, putting a little fuel cleaner in there to make sure your fuel system stays clean, getting your engine air filter, making sure it's clean, doing a good inspection on the car, make sure that it's your car is going to be good until your next oil service. Typically we like to do 5,000 miles, 6 months. It really just depends on your driving habits, where you're driving. If you're in construction zones or out in the country and there's a lot of dust and dirt, floating around in your car, it never hurts to have it inspected, at least twice a year in those conditions. If you don't do much driving and the vehicle kind of just stays on pavement, once a year is probably fine. But that's just the main differences between an oil change and oil service. So an oil service is going to typically cost you, upwards of, somewhere between $250 and $500, depending on what all needs done. If you need a cabin filter and an engine air filter, some vehicles, their tires you can't rotate them because they're staggered sizes from front to rear. If there's stuck lug nuts or something, there's so many variables involved in that. But if you're just looking for a quick oil change, typically somewhere between $110 and $160. Again, that varies greatly on the type of vehicle, which engine, how much oil it takes. We have several customers who have larger engines that take about 12 quarts of oil. So their oil change typically ends up in the $300 range, just because there's so much extra stuff involved in there. And then we do take care of a few diesels, not too many. We aren't really tooled to handle that kind of vehicle, but as a courtesy, we do have a couple customers that we allow to bring in their bigger trucks, and sometimes their oil service can be $800 to $1,000, depending on how much oil it takes, if they want the fuel filter swapped out with it. But yeah, like I said, just wanted to go over the main differences between an oil change and an oil service. The big difference is an oil change is just oil and a filter. An oil service is more inclusive. Hope that's informative for everybody. It's super cold out this morning, at least in my opinion. I'm ready for spring already. I don't know if it's even out of the 30s yet this morning, but I'm ready for spring. Have a good one.